Okay, hello everybody. Eduardo Grunge here, and I'm showing you Gurps Arabian Nights, Magic and Mystery in the Land of the Jinn. Okay, I'm going to do a little review about this Gurps third edition Arabian Nights, and what is this book all about. So the point here is to make a little review and to see what's the book is really into and give a little background and how can I say overview about what is inside this book and how can you use in your campaign with your players to have a little overview from what is the book is telling about all the Arabian fantasy culture. Okay, as in all GURPS books, you have here you know the drill. You have an introduction and you have some background about religion, about the setting for you to be used with the lore of the game, the culture of the game, and you have a little bit of what you can use in your campaign, like new players, classes, and magic, and some traits and characteristics you can use in your campaign. And finally, in the end, you have some ideas for campaign and some references, yeah? About literature, movies, and stuff like that. In this book here, let's get going. You have, as in all GURPS books, some introduction, words about the Scheherazade world. Okay, and here I remember quite well. You have some stories, the most famous stories about the Thousand Nights, yeah? the 1001 Night. Actually, all that stories you see in Aladdin and other fantasy famous stories of Arabian culture and folklore. Okay, of course, in this section here, you are gonna have a pretty good and pretty decent background about even historical background about religion, culture, and all that stuff. One of the characteristics of GURPS books is the accuracy that they have on bringing stories and make religion and all the historical events that happened in the setting you are reading quite well, quite accurate. And here it's not different, but the differences here are like they don't bring just historical events, but as well they bring some fantasy stories, like the stories of what it's not really real. It's not like what really happened in the real world. Okay, like more fantasy lore and stories. You have here all that stories of the 1001 Nights and Aladdin, the magical lamps, Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, and a bunch of things here in this first section of the book you can see. Uh, for the ones that don't know what I'm talking about, 1001 Nights are a number of stories that got together in many tales. Okay, and 1001 Nights would be a reference to the one of story. There's one woman was married to a sheikh, to a vizier, to a king, and to not let the king kill her, she told many stories to entertain the king for not having her killed. And then in the end of the story, the woman survives. But this story is actually different from each point of view. And all these point of views you can see in this book here, especially in this first section of the book, the Scheherazade world. And what else do you get in this book after this first step of the book? You have more stuff about history of the Islamic lands. Okay, here in this section you get a pretty decent overview and a frame of what happened to the foundations of the Arabian culture until its decadence and downfall. Okay, and as you can see, you have a timeline of events, what happened, including churches, Persian kings, Carthage, Darius, and a bunch of famous figures from that time. Okay, I'm gonna pass this part here because it's all more historical, and it's very good if you want to really get into the feeling, the flavor of the Arabian Nights. Okay, and in the next section, obviously, is the characters. And here in this section of the book, you have, as in the most part of the Gurps books, you have examples of characters you can make. Okay, all the characteristics they're linked to this character, and jobs and advantages, disadvantages. Okay, in other words, all the information you have to know about characters for your campaign. Okay, and all the traits that are linked to these characters to play your Gurps Arabian Nights campaign. Of course, here you have some advantages and disadvantages, and a little space for new stuff. Okay, one or two new spells if you are to play a fantastic Arabian setting. Okay, because you have this option in this book. You can run a realistic Arabian campaign or like a Hollywood Arabian campaign. That if you ask me, of course I prefer how can I say, a more fantastic, more magic campaign, because you can ride magic carpets, you see jinns, you have spells. It's way more interesting if you know what I'm talking about. So new advantages and all that stuff. Most of the skills and traits here are stuff you can see in all GURPS books, but here they put a lens put lenses on these skills and advantages and disadvantages for using in an Arabian campaign. Okay, you have the skill writing, but if you read the text, you see that's more applied to an Arabian Nights campaign. Okay, some new skills here, uh, character examples, job tables, as usual. Okay, and more stuff about how you can make fine adjustments to your characters. This is very important too. Weapon tables, especially from that time. Okay, because you can't run all the weapons you want, because some weapons they are just didn't exist at the time. Okay, that's something you have to know. One chapter for magic. Okay, nothing very different from what you see in GURPS magic and all the basic magics you see around GURPS books, but you have some as I spoke before, some stuff that are applied to the to more into more more fit into a Arabian Night campaign. Okay, spells and some modified spells and some a little bit of new stuff here, including like gene spells and summon genes and summon Arabian spirits from the folklore. Okay, and what else do you get? After this chapter here, I have a little bit of magical items here too. Okay, what else do you got? There is another chapter here about animals, monsters, and jinns, because it would sound weird if you put a red dragon or a beholder in your Arabian Night campaign. It's not just fair. You have to use the monsters from the Arabian world mythology. It's what everybody wants to see. Okay, we're not willing to see fantasy monsters like a regular campaign monsters in your Arabian Nights campaign. Am I right? So in this chapter here you have the animals, the monsters, and some pretty weird and interesting animals and more like monsters that are proper from the Arabian world folklore, like the roc, that is a gigantic bird. Of course, the genes, okay, and a bunch of new monsters here. Ifrit, okay, Dedans. This is a very large sea creature, mostly for swallowing ships. It's like a kraken, you know. Demons and a bunch of stuff here. That one of this chapter here is one of the more interesting chapters in my opinion, because they have pretty decent and interesting monsters here. Even the Persian dragons. Okay, they're a little bit different. The giant roc I was talking about is the roc here, yeah? Not the rock, not the fighter, the rock, not the actor. This roc here. Okay, look at the strength of the roc. 2,000. It's amazing. Okay, what else? Of course, to finish, you have one last chapter about campaigns, how you run your campaign. And in this chapter here, you have the styles of play that I was talking about. You can run a realistic campaign or you can run a fantastic campaign. Okay? All of these two options have pros and cons. Okay? Because you can have fantastic spells, monsters. In the other hand, you can have a very historical campaign telling about for example, the Crusaders, all that stuff, exercises, you have two options for running your campaigns in Arabian Nights, in Arabian Nights Gurps book here. Okay, and in this, as I told you, this chapter here is to guide, to let the game master knows exactly what he is doing, for not having any problems running his campaign for him and for his players. Okay, it's not very common in GURPS books, but in this book especially you have some sample adventure. Okay, I did not read this sample adventure, but it sounds pretty good too. I think that's it. This was the most part of what I can tell about this book. In my opinion, it's a very good book. Very pleasant, very pleasant reading. Okay, and that's it. For you, if you want to run a GURPS campaign about GURPS Arabian Nights, don't forget to consider what's most important in an Arabian Nights campaign. It's the essence, it's the flavor, the background. It's to feel like being in an Arabian Nights world. This is what is good when we are playing GURPS, especially because GURPS is a generic system, so you can be anywhere. So don't forget, it doesn't matter if you choose a more realistic campaign or a more fantastic campaign. The most important is to use these elements to make you and all your players to feel comfortable and feel like they are really into the adventure, into the Arabian world. Okay, I'm finished here. Next time I am bringing to you new books, okay, about GURPS. And for today, it's all. Thank you, folks, and see you next time.